All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a special meeting to present the proposed 2026 City Operations Budget and the 2026 to 2030 Capital Program. Before we get started, as we do with official city business, of which this is one, I'm going to ask our city clerk to take a roll of our city council members that are here today.
Councilor Basie. McCurris.
Here.
Sale.
Here.
Spellerberg.
Here.
Thomason.
Present.
I'd ask those that are here today, to please thank our city councilors for their service and the time that they put in this work. So council, thank you for being here and for your partnership so far in this process. We've had a lot of meetings already and we'll have a lot in the months ahead. And now I ask that you all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, once again, good afternoon, council, city staff, our partners that are with us here today, and members of the public joining us in person and online. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you the proposed 2026 City Operations Budget and the next 5-year capital program. Before we get into the details of what's being proposed, I want to just take a moment to thank leaders from across our city departments for their work on coming together as one team to develop and to communicate this budget. This is always an extensive process, but this year in particular, we were faced with some challenges and some headwinds leading to some tough decisions and discussions this year. It truly takes a one Sioux Falls team effort to shape a budget of our size and to develop important groundwork for the years to come as our city just continues to grow and to evolve. You'll often hear me say that the Sioux Falls that we love today, it didn't just happen by accident. When we talked about this at the State of the City address earlier this year, I was specifically referencing how we need smart and pragmatic community members to step up and to serve. We can't get complacent and think that our incredible community that we have today will just continue on its own. This includes being bold and being visionary, making intentional decisions like the ones in this proposed budget that set us up not only to address the challenges of today, but also for years to come. It's why you will continue to hear me talk about the Riverline District and the need for a new convention center. We continue to lose events annually that would bring in millions of dollars of revenue while simultaneously supporting our small businesses, our retailers, and restaurants. It's also why you will hear that we are still planning to invest in the Frank Olson Recreation Center through this proposed budget. The Sioux Falls we love today did not happen by accident because those before us just focused on foundational investments. No, the Sioux Falls we love today happened because of intentional decisions that because of balanced foundational investments with transformational investments was led by bold leadership. You will hear throughout this afternoon that critical balance of taking care of today for a better tomorrow. Our city continues to experience incredible growth as people choose to call Sioux Falls home and invest in our community. Sioux Falls' population grew by 2.6% in 2024, which brings our total population to almost 220,000 in our community. When I stepped into office in 2018, our population was a little more than 187,000. We've grown by almost 35,000 people, about 25,000 of those just in the last 5 years alone. So think about that. That's the size of 2 cities of peer, if you think of it that way. So that means we have needed to add and maintain the necessary infrastructure, the necessary roads, the necessary public safety to support 2 cities the size of Pierre since I took office. You'll hear me say this often, that one of my proudest accomplishments during my time as mayor has simply been keeping the train on the tracks or keeping the wheels on the bus as we have experienced historic growth. Meaning we've been able to face this growth head on and create an incredible community that people want to live in, they want to work in, they want to play in. Much of this is because of our intentional planning efforts financially and always coming together as one team, not only across departments at the city, but also as a community with a one Sioux Falls spirit. Unfortunately, some of our elected leaders are sometimes sending a message that growth is not a good thing. The opposite of growth is stagnancy, or a community people aren't proud of or don't want to live in. Almost 1/3 of the state's sales tax revenues are supported by our city in the southeastern corner of this state, which I think is an important stat for us to remember. Reducing service levels in our community without a legal mechanism for us to, at the local level, to replace revenue loss elsewhere, it will certainly have a ripple effect, not only for our community, but across the state. We can all thrive and grow together across South Dakota while benefiting each other if we focus on working together even more. So far in 2025, over $805 million have been invested in building permits, which is one of the indicators we use to gauge the strength of our local economy. We're seeing a variety of investments in healthcare, residential, and manufacturing, which are signs of a healthy and strong economy. At this rate, we are on track to hit $1 billion worth of permits in 2025 once again, which is what our average mark has been the past few years. Last fall, we were upgraded in our bond rating to AA1, which is a true testament to this city's fiscal responsibility. This means that peer cities and others look to us as being fiscally responsible and a well-managed city. This fiscal strength is more important now than ever as we are encountering slowing sales tax revenues and continue to experience uncertainty at the federal level. Third-party validation organizations also are recognizing our strong fiscal responsibility. Most recently being recognized by WalletHub as one of the top 10 best-run cities in America. As part of this recognition, WalletHub looks at how well city leaders manage and spend public funds by comparing the quality of services that residents receive against the city's total budget. U.S. News and World Report also named Sioux Falls as one of the top medium-sized cities in which to live in the entire country. The article states, quote, "If you're looking for career opportunities, cultural amenities, and a high quality of life without the sky-high cost of living, these medium-sized cities like Sioux Falls, they deliver." And of course, I'm biased, but I certainly would agree with that. We are in a strong financial position and have historically strived to be responsible with tax dollars, which has put us in a good position to continue keeping Sioux Falls investable. We will continue these strong efforts as we move forward. Although we are encountering slowing sales tax revenues, these always tend to ebb and flow with the economy. It's why we lean into our vision statement, which is taking care of today for a better tomorrow. It's why we prioritize investments to keep up with our growth, while also planning ahead for the future. This can be one of the biggest challenges of our budget process, prioritizing amid continued growth. Before we move into highlighting some of the projects slated for 2026, let's take a step back to review the different elements of our budget and our revenue sources. In 2026, we are proposing a total of $775.9 million for our budget to support our growing community. It's important to note that despite adding more than 5,000 residents to our community, the proposed budget is actually flat compared to 2025, up just 0.3%. And if you actually account for inflation, this budget is actually smaller than last year's budget. The city's budget is split up into three main parts. We have general services, which consists of operations and capital, and that's supported by taxes. We have utility services, which are also part of the capital program, but are supported by fees. And then we have internal services, which are supported by items like, they support items like employee benefits, insurance, and technology security. I want to use the graphic on the screen to show you visually how our city budget is divided and the revenue sources that support each bucket. Our utility services, like water and electricity, those are paid for only by the people who use them. They're not supported by any taxes, just by user fees based on how much people use. So these funds go back to the utility to support the employees, the operations, and the projects for that utility. The general capital fund, that's supported by sales taxes. The capital fund supports our proposed 2026 to 2030 capital program, which is a little over $1.1 billion with almost $230 million planned in 2026. I want to focus on the general fund for a moment, which is the only fund that receives property taxes. This is significant because of a bill that was recently passed in the South Dakota legislature earlier this year, Senate Bill 216. Last week, we held a press conference to review some of the specific effects that this bill is having on our budget. With the information we know at this time, because we have not yet heard directly from the state on how this will be implemented, our finance team is estimating that the city will lose at least $25 million in property tax revenue over the next 10 years due to SB 216. This bill, what it does is it caps property tax growth for municipalities, for counties, and school districts, ultimately reducing Sioux Falls' revenue that we'll receive from property taxes. So this revenue loss to our general fund will affect our ability to fund daily operations at current service levels. So between this and sales tax revenues that are not meeting our budget expectations, we need to permanently reduce spending by 8 to 10 million just from our general fund over the next 3 years, starting next year. Despite the fact that we are always looking for ways to innovate and create efficiencies, this legislation is forcing us to dig quite a bit deeper, which is resulting in impactful service adjustments. We made the intentional decision not to touch employee wages and benefits because, honestly, we value our team and we understand how important they are to serving our community and making it what it is today. We also know that because of these financial constraints, we're asking them to do more with less. Instead, we're looking at how we can deliver services differently. For example, we will close the libraries up to 2 hours per day in Sioux Falls starting in 2026 to save on part-time wages. We'll also close our outdoor pools after the first week in August when historically we see a 69% drop in attendance because many families are in back-to-school mode. We're phasing in city-owned and operated motor graders into our snow removal process. So that could result in a little longer snow clearing time, but it certainly would not affect the quality of our snow removal service. And while we wish we didn't have to make any of these changes, I want to reiterate that these are a direct result based on the changes that have happened at the legislature. So if you're as challenged by this as much as we are, it's important that you reach out to your legislators. Now, I'm in favor of smart, strategic property tax reform. I don't like property taxes either. But we can't go for the blanketed approach that's been done with SB 216. Property taxes for cities, counties, school districts, they're a stable, reliable revenue source, so this is a trade-off. A property tax reduction or elimination without a revenue replacement, it's going to lead to a reduction in service levels, period, full stop. Although we were looking at this prior to knowing about SB 216, this bill also proves now it's the right time to change the way that we are granting subsidy agreements to outside agencies. Shifting this process to a request for proposal, or RFP, will create an opportunity for more organizations to apply, to cultivate innovation, and will have greater flexibility and accountability for how funds are used by the recipient organizations. We're naming this process the Community Partners Program. We have work left to do with you, counselors, on this effort, but I'm confident we can collaborate with you all to reach a compromise on how much funding should support each of these three buckets. One, supporting at-risk populations. Another, supporting culture, arts, and community programming. And the third, supporting economic vitality and growth. Ultimately, every team member is affected in some capacity by recalibrating their budget. This was intentionally a one-team effort across the city, as we all needed to pitch in to make the most impact on our budget without impacting any one service level drastically. Regardless of these recalibration efforts, our proposed 2026 budget remains laser-focused on supporting highways and streets, public safety, and culture and recreation. In fact, when you look at the expenses from our operating and capital budgets, which impact the public most directly, almost 65% of our annual budget supports public safety and infrastructure throughout the city. When I stepped into office in 2018 and learned about the city's budgeting process, I quickly recognized how important it would be to have a framework that we could lean on to help us prioritize the investments for the community. We have continued to use the One Sioux Falls framework for the past 7 years to guide our commitments to strategic community growth, as it's been a helpful reminder of prioritizing what's important to the community, especially during this recalibration process. In 2026, we will remain committed to supporting strategic housing initiatives. This team's approach, led by Logan Penfield, focuses on partnerships and revolving investments. Uncertainty or even unpredictability at the federal level can drastically affect this division. But at this point, we are optimistic based on written notice and conversations with some of our partners at the federal level that this team will receive the federal funding that it expects. In the proposed 2026 budget, we're recommending an investment of $12.8 million for this team, which will support direct investment in helping to connect people to housing resources and to produce, preserve, or rehabilitate housing units. One example from this team's work currently under construction is called the Hidden Valley Stables along West 57th Street between Louise and Western Avenues. When complete, this apartment building will host 144 units for a mix of incomes, all workforce and affordable housing units. The city provided a zero-interest, 25-year loan of $1.8 million to support this project, which simply would not have happened without this funding. This project is also the first 4% tax credit new construction in the city of Sioux Falls for at least the last 20 years. In 2024, through strategic investments, this housing team positively impacted 253 housing units in our community and connected 2,086 different people to housing resources. This map on the screen shows housing investments made throughout our community the past 5 years. Housing is something that gets brought up often when we discuss the need to support those experiencing homelessness in our community and what the city is doing to support this population. We are making the necessary investments where we can, since Minnehaha County has the statutory authority over homelessness assistance. Getting folks into housing can sometimes be a simple part of the process, because keeping them in that housing opportunity can be the bigger challenge. That's why it's also important we provide funding for case management to empower individuals to succeed and prevent them from becoming homeless. In this proposed budget, we will continue supporting the Bright Futures program, which is ran by Interlakes Community Action Partnership. Bright Futures, they get families who are experiencing homelessness into stable housing and committed to case management services to increase their financial self-sufficiency through employment. For example, Josh, he came to Bright Futures in late 2023 when he was a brand new single dad, as he had just taken over custody of his 2-year-old son. Josh worked with his Bright Futures housing stabilization coach on the dynamics of parenting a toddler for the first time and working full-time. Since 2023, he has worked with a stabilization coach, and recently he landed a great job with a security company that is setting him and his family up for success. He's also recently married, and they're moving into a rent-to-own home. Josh's story is a great example that sometimes to help those with housing, it's not necessarily with the buildings themselves, but helping the people become self-sufficient. Although not technically in the housing division, we will continue to fund our contract through the health department with South Dakota Urban Indian Health to provide street outreach services for those who are experiencing homelessness. We've built a really great partnership with this organization, and we have seen great results from this collaboration. Kids and families remain a priority in the proposed 2026 budget and 5-year capital program, because we recognize the importance of balancing all city services to provide the high quality of life our community has come to love. In fact, we are investing $53 million in 2026 in libraries and parks and recreation. Next year, we will move forward with the construction of a new outdoor aquatics experience at Keene Park. And we look forward to continuing to collaborate on the indoor recreation center at Frank Olson to see that facility bring new energy to the neighborhood and the east side of our community. Having started this Future of Aquatics process in 2022, it will be great to bring the design of this project across the finish line. The community has told us they're looking forward to these investments. The recently statistically valid survey results from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, well, they emphasize these sentiments. Once again, our residents, they want indoor play. They want indoor fitness and exercise. They want an indoor walking track. They want indoor swimming. We're ready to deliver on what the community is asking for. Other proposed investments for our Parks and Recreation Department include the design of a new neighborhood park at 6th and Dubuque on the east side of our community called Wild Meadows, and the design of a new stretch of recreation trail at Cherry Creek from Songbird Street to Madison Street. Construction is expected to start in 2027 for both of those projects. In 2026, we will also begin constructing our next fire station in the city. It will be built within the Discovery District, serving the north side of Sioux Falls. This will be our 13th fire station and is expected to be operated by the end of next year. It's coming at a critical time when residential and business development just continues to grow in the north, specifically with all the development at Foundation Park. Now, when we add a fire station, we have to plan for an additional 15 full-time firefighters to keep the level of service and response times throughout our community. Since this new fire station won't be operational until later in the year, for the first time ever, Sioux Falls Fire Rescue will hold 2 hybrid cadet academies in 2026. During our recalibration conversations, the fire team, led by Chief Matt McAravey, they collaborated with Human Resources Director Bill O'Toole to innovate and think differently on how they bring new team members on board. We didn't just look externally at how we are delivering services. We truly looked at all the operational impacts and considered how we could do it differently to ultimately try and save some funds. To that end, we will host 2 10-week firefighter academies, one starting in February, as we normally do, and the other will start in August. In the past, our academies have been 18 weeks. So once these team members finish mandatory requirements at the public safety campus, they will complete their training throughout the first year on the floor of a fire station with other veteran team members serving as their mentors. We continue to take care of today for a better tomorrow by making the necessary investments to keep our community safe and thriving, while also planning ahead to where we're going. Over the last 5 years, we made the strategic investment to lease the police report to work location on the west side of Sioux Falls and ultimately purchase the building this year. This was a decision made years ago, knowing we would need to continue serving the community as we grow in all directions. Now we turn our attention to the east side and have strategically set aside funding through the capital program to acquire land for a future report to work location on that side of the city. In 2026, we are proposing to invest a total of $117 million into our public safety teams. We want to ensure they continue to have the necessary training, equipment, and personnel to keep our community safe. Specific to the Sioux Falls Police Department, we are also proposing enough funding to help support an additional 6 officers, which would bring our authorized force to 308. Between strategic paid marketing efforts, a stellar-focused recruitment team, and a community that embraces law enforcement, we just welcomed our largest recruit class ever this past May. They're currently going through training at the public safety campus. Welcoming this class also marked another major milestone for the department, as it led them to being at full authorized strength for the first time in recent memory. But with pending retirements and officers on leave at any given time, it's vital to keep our foot on the gas for our recruitment efforts. We are already confirming new team members for the October class. Most of our funding requested in 2026 to support additional full-time employees will be to strengthen public safety. This includes those 15 firefighters, 2 additional Metro Communications operators, 6 police officers, and an additional forensic specialist for the police department who will examine, collect, and preserve evidence on crime scenes. As part of our recalibration efforts, we're also asking our public safety teams and police and fire to look critically at their overtime costs and evaluate where they can potentially find efficiencies without risking the community's safety. We recognize some of this is out of our hands given the emergencies that come up on any given day for our community. But we also know that our police officers are spending a considerable amount of time responding to and investigating crimes involving parolees as subjects, some of which are serious offenses like homicides or officer-involved shootings. This is part of the reason we will be expecting a high degree of support of new laws from the state legislature, an ongoing funding approach, or additional financial support for Sioux Falls to take on the expected prison population increase and challenges that the new South Dakota State Penitentiary will bring to our community for generations to come. Every year we ask our teams to think critically about the need for additional full-time employees for their departments. But this year in particular, we emphasize to only bring positions forward that were critical to maintaining priorities for our community. 24 of the 28 positions we're requesting, well, those are for public safety. The additional expenses we continue to add to our general fund will only compound for years to come. When we use our vision statement that we're taking care of today for a better tomorrow, part of this means that we're forecasting for a decade out. This modeling reduces future full-time employees by 50% or 40 slots over the next 10 years for non-public safety teams because we simply would not be able to support it with the permanent property tax revenue loss that we are anticipating continuing year after year. We have always prided ourselves that Sioux Falls has grown as we have grown. We have always been prudent for the number of employees in our organization per 10,000 residents. You can see by the graph that based on this most recent projection, the number of employees per 10,000 residents will continue to decrease if we don't have another revenue source available to support our continued growth. We will continue to do more with less, but the reality is our service levels will be impacted even further if something does not change or property taxes are further reduced or eliminated entirely without a stable, reliable revenue replacement. This means fewer people to take care of our parks, fewer permit techs for building permit reviews, and fewer IT experts to maintain a safe, secure, and reliable network. The remaining 4 additional full-time employees we are requesting funding for include a variety of utility services. As I explained earlier, utility services, they're fully self-funded, meaning their customer fees support their operations. So the fees will support these full-time positions. And these roles include 1 equipment operator for the Sioux Falls Regional Landfill, 1 distribution tech to support water, and 2 sewer collection techs who will support the expansion of our water reclamation plant and storm drainage system. The largest project in Public Works history is wrapping up this year, which is the expansion of our wastewater treatment facility. We are taking care of today for a better tomorrow by planning for the growth not only for Sioux Falls, but for the region, because this facility serves our city of Sioux Falls, but also T, Brandon, and others. We are expanding our wastewater capacity from 21 million gallons a day to 30 million gallons per day with this project. This is arguably the most critical foundational piece of infrastructure in order for a community to grow and support additional schools, housing, or commercial development. Although this major $215 million project will be complete this year, you will see continued improvements planned for this facility throughout the proposed capital program to take care of this vital asset. We have historically been known to our peers as a well-planned city. And we are currently going through the process of updating our comprehensive Shape Sioux Falls plan. This will guide the vision and direction for community growth to the year 2050. We expect the City Council to consider this plan for adoption early next year. The current plan is guiding our decisions on where we need to build more infrastructure to support future development. Right now, we are building the necessary sewer infrastructure to open thousands of acres of land on the west side of the city through what is called Basin 15. And we'll start a construction of a sewer basin on the southeast side of Sioux Falls in 2026 for future development. Sewer is one of the first utilities to be installed to keep up with the growth of a community and make land available for development. We are also proposing the necessary funding to support the construction of the third connection to the Lewis and Clark Regional Water System, which will help us supply more of this vital resource to our community as more residents choose to call Sioux Falls home. This summer, there is no denying that we are making incredible investments in our roads. And we still hope that this is the year our community feels the urge to zipper merge. We have so many projects that are happening simultaneously right now that there are plenty of opportunities to practice. But it's also a good time to remind everyone of the phrase, short-term pain for long-term gain. 2026 will see continued construction on the Cliff Avenue and I-229 interchange and the intersection of Arrowhead and Veterans Parkways. Highways and Streets is once again the largest portion of the proposed capital program, with $431 million of planned investments. Our priorities continue to align with the incredible investments from our partners at the South Dakota Department of Transportation. We expect to break ground on the brand new interchange at I-29 and 85th Street later this year, with continued construction in the next couple of years and a completion by the end of 2027. The interchange at I-229 and Minnesota Avenue, that's expected to begin in 2027 as well. Major street reconstruction projects include Minnesota Avenue from 2nd to 8th Street in 2026. That will replace aging street and utility infrastructure and will improve pedestrian safety. This is a part of the continued improvements on Minnesota Avenue towards downtown. So this project will ultimately include streetscape amenities to showcase this area from the airport to our downtown. The intersection of 41st Street and Louise Avenue is scheduled to be reconstructed in 2027. Through this 5-year capital program, we also expect to be able to finish the last 2 stretches of South Veterans Parkway from Sycamore to 57th and from I-29 to Western, which will complete this brand new, buttery smooth 8.6-mile stretch of highway, which also adds 48 lane miles to our community. One other project I want to highlight is the railroad overpass on Marion Road, which is scheduled to be constructed starting in 2026. And that's critical to support the growth and development that is happening out at Foundation Park. As we build new road networks and invest in major street corridors, it's just as important we continue to invest in our maintenance programs to take care of our existing streets. We are proud that we were able to preserve most of this budget to continue investing in 700 blocks of roads per year. Our goal through these maintenance programs is to maintain our above average pavement index score of 70, which again is conducted by a third party. We believe we are proposing the funding necessary to maintain this above average goal. This has been one of the most difficult budget processes I have been through since I stepped into office, and it's for these 4 reasons. 1, we have continued historic growth in our community right now. 2nd, we have increasing expectations by our residents for what they expect of us as government. The 3rd, we have softening sales tax revenue right now. And the 4th, we have a reduction in property tax revenue due to state legislation. So despite these 4 factors all working together, in our proposed 2026 budget, we continue to address the foundational needs of today while setting our community up for the future. Your ongoing collaboration with our city teams as One Sioux Falls is critical for ensuring our city remains investable while strategically planning for growth. So I want to thank you for your time today, for your continued investment and service to Sioux Falls, and may God bless Sioux Falls in the year ahead. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.